Hi there YouTubers and 3D Studio Max lovers. In today's episode we're going to do this scene, this beautiful render that you see here. We're going to model the house, we're going to model the field, we're going to learn how to scatter all these trees, how to create all these lavender bushes, how to create the fog, and in the last part we're going to talk about how to do the post-production for this image. So if you guys are ready and if you are curious how to create this render, let's just dive in. Okay, so this is the house that we're going to use as a reference for 3D modeling the house in our project. So I'm gonna leave the link in the description to get the pictures, the plans, sections, elevations and so on, so you can also use them and follow me while I'm going to 3D model this house. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to create a plane and I'm gonna apply to this plane the plan that we took from the ArchDaily website. As you can see, this is the plan, and I'm going to use exactly the same dimensions as the picture. So I'm going to make the same dimensions on this plane to have the same proportions. Now I'm going to create a Corona physical normal material and I'm going to apply here my plan to the base color. And after that I just need to see exactly where are all the holes from the house, like windows and doors. And now I'm just gonna try to, while knowing that a door is approximately 900 millimeters or 90 centimeters, I'm just gonna try to scale my plan to have it approximately in the right dimension to be sure that I'm working on the 1:1 scale. And after that I'm just using the line, I'm just gonna create the perimeter walls of the house. We're not going to model all the walls and all the houses from this site. We're just going to model a couple of them just to have a shape there that it's creating the illusion that we have the house. After that, using the refine, as you can see, I'm just using it to create the holes where I have the windows and the doors and so on. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm just checking here exactly how the windows are and where everything is. And now with the shift and the click, I'm just creating another material only with the elevation on it. As you can see, they are not on the same scale, so I need to scale the elevations to have them more or less in the same dimensions and the same scale as the plan. They don't need to be exactly the same because I'm going to use the plan as a reference, but yeah, I just need them to see exactly how they're going to look. And now I'm just using an extrude to extrude my walls and to see exactly what are the heights for this house. I'm gonna create first the ground floor and then I'm just gonna move up with the first floor. Here there you see there is a gap in between the walls, but I'm trying to create also that, but later I'm just gonna fix it because I'm not gonna like it. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm extruding the other floor, so the first floor. Okay, now I'm just going to save my file, and now I'm just gonna start creating some loop lines using the Alt-1 to create my windows. As you can see, I need to add these loop lines everywhere where I have windows, and these are gonna be very helpful in the end to, as you can see, to delete my polygons where I have the windows, so I can create a 3D model there for my windows. As you can see, not everything is going to be perfect. It's also because this house is going to be very far away from my camera. And now using the pure reference program that you can find it for free, I'm gonna leave the link in the description. You can just add your images in there, and you can it's much easier to use it and to see your references all the time. So yeah, as you can see, Here I realized that I made a small mistake. I was doing the loop lines behind my wall on the other side, so I had to fix everything before I could move forward. Then I realized that my polygons were all on the inside part, so I had to flip all of them on the other side. As you can see here, I just made the flip, and now I'm just creating some more lines so I can have my windows. And now I'm just starting deleting them, deleting the polygons actually, so I can create the windows. So as you can see, this technique is quite simple. You are just using lines and then you extrude them, and then you apply a shell modifier on it and you have the walls. But sometimes you can get like really strange corners, as you can see in this part. So I just realized that it's better to fix it for now, but later on I'm just gonna delete that gap that I have in there. So yeah, it's much easier to handle the polygons this way. So yeah, right now I'm doing the delete because I just realized that actually you're not going to see this detail, and it's gonna be easier for me to model this. For those who are on my Patreon, they can just download the 3D model with everything that I did here, so they don't need to model this building by themselves. Then here I also realized, because I didn't have the other elevation, that these two walls, they are not actually connected, but I'm doing a small mistake here by connecting them, but I'm gonna fix all of that later. So yeah, the whole video is on fast forward because otherwise it will take too much time to model and to render and to create the materials and so on. So the whole project, it took me around 5 hours to make it, so it didn't make any sense for you guys to follow me for 5 hours. I think it's way too long for someone to follow a tutorial for such a long time. So as you can see here, I'm just detaching some polygons and I'm trying to recreate this wall because I realized that the first floor is actually happening only on the small side of the house, not everywhere. So yeah, as you can see now, it's looking much better. Now I'm going to create also some other loops inside this this house. So in this way we can create also the attic. I'm creating here just a simple rectangle just to use it as a reference for the middle point, and then afterwards I'm just gonna extend my vertices so I can create the attic. As you can see now, if you look at the reference behind the 3D model that I created, is not matching perfectly my 3D model, but it doesn't matter. It's not the purpose of this video to create like a perfect model, because yeah, as I said before, this 3D model is quite far away in the background, and you're not going to see all the details and all the stuff that is happening in this house. Even though I'm gonna create a couple of details here just to be sure that it's looking well. Okay, so now I'm just gonna create a roof with a very simple line, which I'm just going to use an extrude. Then I'm just gonna apply an editable poly. I'm gonna extend the whole thing till the end. And after that, I'm just gonna start creating all the details of the roof. Of course, I need to give it a little bit of a shell, so to have some depth in this material, because otherwise Corona is not going to understand how the model is actually working. So in general, it's very good to know that in Corona render you need to have thickness for everything, otherwise it's not going to render well. And now I'm just gonna start creating a couple of details. As you can see, I need to create the windows and the gutter. So I'm doing that right now using the Alt-1 as usual to create some more loops and edges. Now I'm just creating the lines for the skylight, as you can see. And now I'm just gonna take the gutter and I'm just gonna extrude it, and yeah, we're having a gutter in there. Now I'm trying to create the extra details for the roof. Also here, they don't need to be exactly, but they need to look more or less the same size, as you can see. Just going to detach here the two polygons that are going to be my skylight. And now I'm trying to create the extra details for the roof. Okay, so now I'm just going to make selections with all my splines in here, so I can create the details for my scaffolding boards. Even though this 3D model is going to be quite far away from the camera, sometimes it's just better to use a little bit of more effort to create a little bit more details. In this way your final render is gonna look more realistic. I know we're just talking here about a couple of pixels, but sometimes a couple of pixels can make a huge difference. Okay, now I'm making the selection between the boards to create the riffling. So yeah, this is just gonna take a while, as you can see. Okay, now it's all done. I'm just using a face extrude for this for now, because it's much easier for me to come back later in case I made a mistake or I want to make some changes to this. But for now I think it's looking very nice. It's everything that I need. Now I'm just going to apply a chamfer to all of this to create a little bit of smooth on the corners, and also to make it more realistic. Yeah, here I just realized that I'm not very happy with the face extrude because it's just extruding everything in one direction. So I just apply another editable poly and I made the extrude according to the normals. So now it's perpendicular to the normals. In this way it's looking much realistic. Okay, now I'm doing the roof ridge, as you can see here. I'm just creating a line, and yeah, I'm just trying to apply to this line an extrude and also a shell afterwards, so I can have some depth in there, so it's gonna look more realistic. Now I'm just going to create all these ridges also on the side. Just need to put all the lines in the same plane, and then I'm gonna apply a sweep, as you can see. And to this sweep I'm just gonna use an L shape, which is an angled in this option. Now try to modify it a little bit to have it perfectly aligned with the rest of the roof. Now I'm just going to apply a symmetry, so I don't need to make a copy to all of this. I'm just going to apply the symmetry in the middle of the 3D model. So in this way I'm going to have it also on the other side. Symmetry in general is very useful in 3D Studio Max when you have symmetrical objects. I prefer to use it all the time because in case you need to have to make a change, or you need to repair something in your 3D model, it's going to be repaired automatically also on the other side. Okay, so right now, because I already made the first part of the roof, now I'm just gonna copy this, and to make it easier I'm just gonna apply also symmetry to this roof. So in this way I'm gonna have the whole roof at once. I don't need to go backwards. As you can see, it's much easier. You just take the middle of the roof and then bang, you just have it. This is sometimes a very quick way to create objects that are similar with other objects, but they are in the smaller scale. Of course, probably not all of these details are exactly the same, or you're gonna say that, yeah, but the lines between the stripes between the ridges are not exactly the same distance. It doesn't matter, because when things or objects are really far away from the camera, you're not going to see all those small details. So yeah, as you can see, I made this in a couple of seconds and it's done. I don't need to go backwards and to start doing everything from scratch. Now I'm just gonna create also the attic in here, and yeah, it's done for now. As you can see, to create the attic, I'm also using the loop lines. I'm creating a line, and then I'm just by selecting the vertex in the middle, I'm just gonna extend that to the top of my roof, and then I'm just gonna try to align all these lines and points with the roof. In this way, yeah, the wall is gonna follow the roof. It's almost done, as you can see. It's looking quite well. There is a small problem in here that I'm just going to fix now, and it's done. I'm also fixing a couple of geometry parts that didn't go very well, as you can see. But yeah, overall I think it's quite fine for the lessons of today. Of course, if you go with your camera closer to the object, you need to add more details. So yeah, you have to go crazy and create more details to make everything looks fine for a close-up. Okay, so right now we're going to start working on the details for the windows. As you can see, everything is quite simple. The only problem is that here in this corner I'm actually missing a window, which I'm just going to create right now. This is quite simple. The only problem is that it's not actually a corner window, but the wall, it's cornered. So yeah, I need to create a way to fix all of that. But as you can see, it's quite simple. I'm just gonna add another line in here, and yeah, I'm just gonna delete the polygon, and after that I'm just going to fix the window. Another thing that I would like to talk about here before I forget is the fact that it's in 3D Studio Max is very useful, and probably this is the big plus of 3D Studio Max is the fact that you can actually stack all your modifiers on top of each other. So you can always go back to your original modifier and try to modify your 3D model there. In this way you keep all your changes that you made in the meantime. So yeah, this is quite important to know, and each time when you create a 3D model and you make changes to that 3D model, you should apply another modifier on top. In this way it's going to be much easier to work, and it's going to be much easier to make changes to an object. Maybe some of you know already, but some other don't. Even though if you're working in an architectural studio or maybe interior design company or 3D visualizing company, you always need to make changes, because you are creating a 3D model or you are creating a rendering, you send it to the client, and the client is giving you feedback about your work. So most of the time you need to be able to go back to make changes and to still keep your 3D model and your work there. So this is why it's very, very important to work with the stackable modifiers in 3D Studio Max. Also, another thing that I'm going to make now is to create layers. In case you know or you don't remember or you didn't see my video, I made a video only about that. I'm gonna leave the link on the top part description, so you can go there and have a look on how to make layers, how to use them, and so on. Okay, in this part I'm just going to create a floor for each room. I'm not gonna put too much effort into this. We just need to have something there, so we're not going to see the ground or the void of the earth inside there. So yeah, I'm just creating a simple plane, and I'm just going to apply a simple material to this. Okay, so in the next part I'm going to create the interior perimetral floor between the windows. As you can see here, I'm just creating a line, and I'm applying a sweep to this line, and yeah, it's quite a simple task. I'm just going to use a bar as a sweep, and then I'm just gonna give it a length and a width. Okay, on the next part I'm going to create the windows. As you can see, I'm making a layer for the windows, and then using just a simple rectangle, I'm just going to create the frame for the window. In the beginning I'm just going to create one, and then I'm just going to modify this one for the rest of the windows. As you can see, it's quite simple. I'm taking a rectangle and I'm going to apply a sweep to this rectangle, and then yeah, I'm just going to create a glass in the frame. Yeah, things are quite simple. As you can see, I'm not creating any crazy things here. I'm trying to keep everything as simple as possible. Of course, I'm applying also a chamfer. I'm always using a chamfer, creating a little bit more details, even though, as I said before, this is quite far from the camera. But for now, I will just leave it as it is. Now here in this area, I'm just checking to see the details and how everything is actually looking. And here I'm checking to see the details for the window corner. So from what I see, it's something that I'm missing here. So I'm just going to select this face here, and I'm just gonna extrude it. Okay, so this is the window. What I'm going to do next, I'm just going to use a rectangle to create the glass sheet inside the frame, which is just a simple rectangle with a depth. I'm going to apply a shell to it, and yeah, a little bit of thickness, and that's it. What I'm going to do next is to create the materials for the glass and the frame. These are quite simple materials. I'm just going to use Corona physical material, of course, and I'm going to apply to this a dark blue tint. with a roughness of 0.6. After that, I'm just going to create another Corona physical material, and this time I'm just going to apply a preset to this, a glass, architectural glass, and I'm going to also apply an absorption color to it and a thickness to it. And then these two materials are gonna go together into multi-sub object, because I want to merge together the frame and the glass sheet. As you can see here, I'm just going to create different materials ID for each of them, and then at the end I'm just going to apply an editable poly and merge both of them together. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is to make a copy of my window, and I'm just going to make copies and arrange it to the new size of the gap from the wall. So as you can see here, I'm just taking the vertices and try to fill the gaps from the wall. And here on the corner window, as you can see, I'm just gonna extend my frame until the corner of the wall. And after that, I'm gonna apply a symmetry, and I'm gonna turn this symmetry to 45 degrees. In this way, I'm gonna have a corner window in that place. Of course, one side after I did that is going to be longer, but I'm gonna apply an editable poly over, and I'm just gonna make it smaller in that direction. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is just to create a quick material for the brick. It's not the final material, I just need to see some bricks on that wall so I can understand better what's happening with the house, the real size of the house. So I'm just using a texture from Polygon. Yeah, they have many different textures there. You can use any other type of textures if you find it suitable. You also have a couple of them for free from Corona Cosmos. Now I'm just applying a simple UV map as a box and real world scale. Because my texture looks quite big, I'm just going to make it smaller, 300 by 300. So what I'm going to do next is to make copies of the windows that I've created on the ground floor, and to try to make the windows from the first floor. So as you can see, it's quite a simple thing to do. I'm just going to make a copy, and then I'm just going to adjust the dimensions of the windows according to the gap that I have in the wall, and I'm going to create half of this window as a blind window. To do that, I'm just going to make a copy of the polygons on the left side of the frame. I'm gonna make a copy and move them in the middle. I'm gonna rearrange the polygons on the bottom and top part. And for the window, I'm just going to move her polygons from the left side, also in the middle, and make a copy of the glass window, glass sheet that I have, and change the material of it by changing the material ID, because now my windows is composed of two materials with two different IDs, one dark and one transparent, so it's quite easy to do that. After that, I'm just going to make copies of these windows everywhere on the first floor. Okay, so right now I'm just going to apply the same simple brick material to the back walls. Now I'm just starting to create the skylight. I'm going to use the same method as I used before for the windows. So I'm just using a rectangle. I'm going to apply an sweep, rectangle sweep on the spline. Apply a material to it, and then create the inner glass sheet, and that's kind of it. As you're going to see here, because I applied the sweep and I've changed the line, the editables, the rectangle before applying the sweep is not parallel with the roof, so I have to change that by changing the angle of the sweep. Now it's looking good. I'm also going to offset a little bit the sweep to have it in the right position. As you can see, I'm also going to apply the same material that I applied before. The material is a little bit lighter because I saw in the images that also there it's a little bit lighter. And now I'm just going to create the glass sheet from the frame that I already created by selecting a couple of polygons, then creating a shape out of it, and yeah, applying a shell, and that's it. We have the glass sheet in the right position. Now I'm just going to apply the correct material to it, and that's it. Okay, next I'm just going to group everything in one object. I'm gonna name it skylight, and after that I'm just going to make a copy on the other side to have the second skylight in the right position. By using an FFD, I will just arrange the vertices and the size of the skylight in the correct dimension. Okay, as you can see, this is our 3D model for now. I think it's looking quite good. What I'm going to do next is to create a metal material for the roof. I'm just going to make a copy of the material that I already made for the frame, and I'm gonna just change it to a metal material. In this way I'm going to get exactly the same color as the frame. So what I'm going to do next is to open the Corona material library and try to find a nice texture for my floor, the interior floor of the house, even though we're not going to see that in the render, but it's better to have something there in case we need it. Okay, so I just applied the wood floor material to the two slabs that I have in the scene. I'm going to use an UV map as a real world map size. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is to bring a Corona sky in the environment and to start making a quick render so I can see and check the materials. Yeah, I'm just missing some materials here on the roof, but I'm going to fix that in a second. I see here a mistake behind the glass of the skylight. I forgot to delete the plane that I created at one moment when I was doing the roof. So I'm going to delete that right now. So as you can probably see, the texture that we have on the walls, the brick is repetitive, so you can see repetition of the texture. So actually it's called Corona Mapping Randomizer, the new Corona randomizer material. In case you don't know how to use this material, please let me know in the comments, and I'm going to create in the future a video only about this. Okay, so as you can see right now, the texture is divided by 14 bricks and 42 bricks on width and height. So what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to use an UV offset from 0 to 1, and I'm going to divide this offset, which is 1, by 0.14 and 0.42. I'm also going to use the randomize each tile. In this way you're not going to see the repetitive tile. And to make everything much easier, we're going to use this mapping randomizer for all the rest of the textures that we need, like normals, reflection map, bump, and so on. If you want to know more about this Corona mapping randomizer, I made a video on YouTube about Corona 10, and you're gonna find there all the necessary details to understand better how it's working. So now moving back to our file, I'm just going to, as I said, create all the necessary maps to have the reflection map, the roughness, displacements, and normal. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the bump map, and I'm gonna plug this into the bump, of course, and After that, I'm just going to make a copy of it and try to bring in the reflection map for the roughness. In this way, as you can see here, because the roughness is a dark image, the texture is going to be quite reflective. So to change that, I'm just gonna invert the dark texture into a bright one. In this way, it's going to be less reflective. Is going to be the opposite. Afterwards, I'm going to bring a normal map inside here, which is going to be combined with the bump map. In this way, I'm gonna get also the normals and the bump in the same texture. In this way, it's going to be a better texture. I need to add the gamma input here, so the texture is gonna look nice. And then I'm just going to apply a concrete texture on the space between the windows. Now I just open my reference images to check what exactly am I missing from my 3D model. As you can see here, also on the windows we have some doors or just some openings, and also two chimneys that are here, and yeah, probably I'm not going to make them. So yeah, I'm gonna start now working on the two doors that I'm missing here. As you can see, I'm using the same profile. I'm just going to make a copy of the existing one, and then with the resulting, I'm just gonna add it inside the existing frame. Okay, now we are done with the window and the door. Let's see what else we need to do. Right now I'm just going to use the perspective match. In case you don't know what perspective match is, I made a tutorial about it. I'm gonna leave the link in the top part of this video. You can just click on it and you can see exactly what it means and how you can use it. So I'm going to use my perspective image to add a camera in the scene, because I would like to have more or less similar perspective for my camera. So yeah, I'm using the vanishing points, and then I'm just going to arrange them according to my perspective. So the blue ones are the Z, OZ, and the red ones are the OX, and the green ones are the OY. My perspective, of course, is not going to be exactly the same as the one in the picture, but it's going to be very close to this one. Okay, I'm done with the perspective match for now. just want to change my image from the background so I can have my house further away, because yeah, I think it's this perspective and this composition is looking much better, even though I don't like to have my building in the middle of the image, but I'm going to change that. And next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start creating the field, the grass field. In the end, we're not going to use the grass in here. As I said, I'm going to use the lavender field because I wanted to have a little bit more like a French style villa in the countryside. So as you can see, I'm just starting with a simple plane, and then I'm just extruding the edges in such a way that it's going to look more or less similar with the image that you see here in this perspective. So the best way is to work with big polygons. In this way, it's gonna be much easier to fix it in case you make a mistake. Also, as you can see, I'm just going easy and try to match my vertices and polygons according to the perspective. This is not the perfect way to create this kind of images and this kind of landscape, but it's easy to work with, and sometimes, yeah, it can take longer than you might think. But as you can see, slowly I can recreate the landscape. For those who are following me on my Patreon, they can download the whole scene from there, also the landscape and also the building. It's not a big deal. I will prefer for you guys to actually make it from this video than to download it directly from my Patreon. In this way, you're also going to learn more, and yeah, my work is not for nothing. I know that sometimes it can look that what I'm doing here, it's really hard, but trust me, while you are starting doing it, even though you're not going to get the same result as me, you're gonna learn a lot, because this is how you actually learn, by doing mistakes. That's probably the hardest way to learn, but also the best one, because you're never going to forget what you learn. So the only difference between a person with a lot of experience and a person without the experience is that the person with the experience made already a lot of mistakes. After that, at the end, I'm just going to apply a turbo smooth, as you can see here. This is only to create a little bit more details into my 3D model, because having a big rough 3D model, it's not going to help. So you need to have a little bit of smoothness in your landscape, because straight and angled lines, they don't exist in reality, especially in nature. So everything needs to be smooth and very organic. When you extrude the edges in 3D Studio Max, it's good to have always the same distance between them. If it's possible, I know sometimes it's not working like that and it's quite hard, just try to keep the distance between the edges at the same distance. In this way, later it's going to be easier to apply an unwrap or to apply a UV map. And also, in the moment that you are applying the turbo smooth over, he's just actually multiplying the polygons that you already have in there and trying to smooth the corners and the angles that you have in the 3D model. So yeah, remember, always it's good and it's better to have less lines if it's possible before you apply the turbo smooth, and also to have approximate the same distance between the edges. Even though probably sometimes you need to have a longer edge or a bigger distance between some of the edges, you can always come back, and using the loop you can add more lines between those edges. Okay, now I'm just gonna apply an UV map to this as a planar, because yeah, it doesn't have too many valleys, this field. And now I will use retopology, because retopology is a very good tool to create the same distance between the edges. So he's going to create polygons which are more or less the same size. This is a very good tool, and afterwards I'm just going to apply a noise to create a little bit more difference between and more naturalness to this field. I'm going to use one which is quite big and another one which is a little bit smaller. In this way I can add more organic smoothness to this field. Then I just moved on creating the material for the earth. So as you can see here, I took these textures from the Polyheaven. They have a huge library there with different textures which are all free. I'm going to leave a link in the description in case you want to download it, or you want to use the same textures, or you can use any other texture. So for creating the texture, I'm going to use the Corona Mapping Randomizer. As you can see, the Corona Randomizer is doing a really good job. You don't see any repetition, and the tiles are always rotated and moved in different directions. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is a furrowed field. I'm going to use a gradient ramp for this, which is very simple. I'm just going to make it the tiling 3000, and then I'm just going to create this gradient, having some black in the middle and then some gray and white. In this way I'm just gonna get the furrowed field exactly as I wanted. After I finish with this, I'm going to apply this texture as a displace on the whole field. Displace is just a modifier coming by default in 3D Studio Max. You can use it for many things. It's very helpful. Yeah, it wasn't a very good idea to use it on this whole huge area, but yeah, I didn't find any other way to actually make it work. I'm just gonna use it here in the map field, as you can see. And yeah, I'm just going also to rotate all of this, so I'm gonna get all the lines going directly or pointing to the house. Also, I'm going to use this as a map channel 2. If you don't know what map channel 2 is, please check out my latest video where I'm explaining exactly what map channels are and how to use them in 3D Studio Max. As you can see, I just finished with a furrowed field. Yeah, this is how it's looking. I think it's looking very nice. Of course, the strength right now is 30 centimeters. You can make it smaller or bigger depending on how you like it. I just use this because I found it that is working very well. Okay, I'm saving the file right now. And I'm going back to my brick material, where I also would like to add a small displacement. In this way I'm gonna get more details, even though it's quite far from my camera, but yeah, I'm just trying my best to get a better result for the brick. As you can see, I'm using the same texture as before. The only thing is that it's not inverted, and I'm changing the output just to get more details into it. Okay, this is one of my first render. I used here an HDRI from Page Sky. You can use any type of HDRIs that you want. And as you can see here, there is a little bit of brick coming out through the roof. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a second material only for that part with a brick, and I'm going to take the displacement out, because what displacement is doing is just uplifting the texture a little bit with the distance that you are putting in. So because my distance is quite close actually to the roof, it's just sticking out through the roof. So yeah, what I'm trying now, I just try to create two different materials. In this way I can add the one that it doesn't have a displace in that area, so there is not going to be anything that is gonna stick out through there. Also, while working on this, I'm realizing that my roof is quite close to that wall, so I'm gonna extend a little bit my roof on the upper part. In this way it's not going to stick out the displacement from the brick. Okay, now I hope it's going to look nice, otherwise yeah, I will just come back later and fix it. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add some trees into this scene, because I want to have a couple, like a small forest behind my house. So as you can see, I'm just using some trees from Chaos Cosmos. They are all free and they are all coming with Corona or V-Ray, depending on what kind of render engine you are using. And yeah, they are looking quite nice, I will say. But to use them, I'm not going to use the Corona scatter or the scatter in general from Chaos. I'm going to use the forest pack, because in my opinion forest pack is much better, even though it's quite expensive, I would say. Like super expensive actually. Yeah, it is what it is. It's the best software out there for scattering vegetation when you have a very huge scene. So yeah, Corona Scatter, I know it's free. I tried to use Corona Scatter in the beginning, but Corona Scatter doesn't know how to handle big scenes and it's crashing all the time. So yeah, if I was a Chaos Group in this case, or 3D Studio Max, I will just go and buy the Forest Pack, because it's definitely one of the best softwares out there for scattering stuff. As you can see, I'm using it to render interactive. If you do that with the scatter in Corona, it's crashing all the time. So yeah, Corona, please learn how to use your scatter tools better in such a way that we can also use them in the interactive way. Regarding the sky, I just tried to change the sky with a normal Corona sky, and also to add a little bit of sun in here, because I was trying to check the color of the textures. Okay, here as you can see, I'm playing a little bit with the tone mapping, adding a little bit less of exposure. I want to see better the vegetation and also the house. And now on the second part, I'm just gonna add the lavender bushes. You can download any bush from or 3D model from the internet. I saw there are a couple of them which are totally free, or there are others that are costing a little amount of money. So yeah, use whatever you want. I'm just showing you here a couple of free ones, and yeah, this one is quite expensive, I would say. But anyway, these are my 3D models, and I'm just gonna start adding them inside my field. So the first thing, I just need to add all of them in my forest pack, of course, and then I need to, the surface area, I'm just going to use the area that we are having here. And for the distribution map, I'm just going to use the texture that I created for creating the forward field. Now, because I just want to create a little bit of difference between them, I'm just going to make the distribution full, and also to add the collision, so it's working exactly the same as Corona Scatter. I'm gonna use the transform, the rotation, and the scale to have a little bit of scale between them. And then I'm just going to try to make a quick render. And as you can see, you can already see the field of Lavander. It's looking quite good. I'm not very happy with the distribution. Some of them are in the right position, some other are not really correct. So let me see how I can fix that. So to fix all these problems, I just need to add my map also in the distribution map. Okay, now let's see how it's everything looking. As you can see, it's all looking good, and I'm quite happy with the result. The only thing that is missing, I would like also to have like some small pieces of grass here and there, so it's not gonna be so artificial growth. Okay, so in the next part, I'm also going to add some dandelions in here. I download these ones from Chaos Cosmos, also the grass. I just downloaded from there. I just need to add a little bit more of wilderness between the lavenders. So to do that, I'm also going to use the forest pack. I'm just going to add all these grasses and also the flowers inside the forest pack, and then I'm just gonna make a quick render to see exactly how everything is actually looking. And from what I see, yeah, it's not that bad. It's looking quite okay-ish. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a new sky for my scene, because I'm not very happy with this one. I need something that is more on the sunset, so I'm just gonna use one from PG Skies. It's quite an old HDRI from them, but yeah, I think it's going to look good, as you can see here. And then I started working on the fog material, which I just used a simple Corona volumetric material, and on this one I'm just going to add a noise, a very simple noise, and then I'm just gonna add the distance for the fog. For actually creating the fog in the scenes, I'm just gonna take the field and I'm gonna make a copy of it. I'm gonna delete the displays and I'm going to change the size of the noise. I'm gonna make the noise a little bit bigger because I just want to see waves that are coming, waves that are covering the vegetation in some places, and some other places I can actually see the vegetation. So yeah, it's more like a smoke kind of way of showing the vegetation in this scene. Okay, and now I'm just starting to render my scene and to have a look how everything is looking. As you can see, this is my final render. I think it's looking quite nice. And now I'm just going to do some post-production to it. So to do that, I'm just going to use the camera raw as usual. I told you before about this. This is a very powerful tool. Every photographer in the world is actually using this tool. So yeah, I'm just playing here a little bit with different settings that I like. You can do different things than me. You don't need to follow my instruction. I did a tutorial already about this. I'm gonna leave a link in the top part with a description, so you can just go there and follow up. I explain most of the stuff there. And then afterwards I'm just going to apply a little bit of curves on this, because yeah, the curves are always working well with any type of render. As you can see also here, it's looking quite nice. And then after that I'm just going to apply a black and white filter. I just need to see exactly if it's also looking good as a black and white. This is a very good way to see if your render is looking good, and if the tone mapping is looking well. So as you can see, it's everything looking nice. And then afterwards I'm just going to change the color of my sky, and to do that I'm also going to use the camera raw, and I'm just going to use a filter from here for the sky filter and use it as a sunset. And you can see, and the moment that I did that, it's getting this pinkish tint, purpley pinkish tint, I will say, that is working very well with the colors of the lavender. So yeah, this is my final render. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. It took me almost between 4 and 5 hours to finish the whole scene from scratch. I also used some time to do some research. So yeah, this is how long it's actually taking most of the time to do a scene like this. So in case you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and see you in the next one. Bye!